the drug's effect on the human body. Some patients complain of severe side effects: vomiting, cramps, nausea, abdominal pain, even internal bleeding. Also, according to the National Institutes of Health, most users regain their weight within 1 year of stopping the medication. Despite that, numerous celebrities are promoting the injections. Oprah, Tracy Morgan, Elon Musk, Sharon Osbourne, Rosie O'Donnell, Charles Barkley, on and on. And here's something else you might not know. The GLP business, now one of the most lucrative in America. Just 6 years ago, the market was estimated at $1 billion. In 2026, this year, it is a $60 billion industry. And that figure is likely to reach $150 billion over the next decade. But some countries are cracking down. Belgium, UK, India, all are limiting the drug because of the side effects. Back in a moment. Here's a bulletin for American homeowners. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud called title theft, and your equity is a target. With just a forged signature, your ownership can be transferred out of your name. Without protection in place, you are left with an emotional and financial nightmare. That's why I partner with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim and protect yourself. Use promo code BILL at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report, plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if you're a victim of fraud, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. So don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code BILL. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. For more news and honest analysis, please go to BillO'Reilly.com. No spin, just facts, and always
news, analysis, opinion. News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Vice President Vance is warning Iran not to play the U.S. in this weekend's negotiations aimed at ending their war. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
As he departed Washington for the talks in Pakistan, the vice president said the U.S. is willing to extend an open hand if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith. But he said the U.S. delegation would not be receptive if Iran tries to play us. The vice president, who has long been skeptical of foreign military interventions, told reporters that President Trump provided some pretty clear guidelines on how the talks should go. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Speaking at the National Action Network's convention, former Vice President Kamala Harris says she's considering another presidential run.
I am thinking about it in the context of then, is who and where and how can the best job be done for the American people? That's how I'm thinking about it. I'll keep you posted.
Harris drew a standing ovation and the largest crowd of any other 2028 prospect at this week's convention. The Artemis II astronauts are on track for a splashdown in the Pacific to close out humanity's first voyage to the moon in more than a half-century. The tension in Houston's mission control is mounting as the miles melt away between the 4 returning astronauts and Earth. Their Orion capsule is expected to hit 32 times the speed of sound as it re-enters the atmosphere Friday. It's a blistering bluer not seen since NASA's Apollo moonshots of the 1960s and 70s. On Wall Street, a mixed day as the Dow was down by 289 points. The NASDAQ rose 80, the S&P declined 7. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Mostly cloudy tonight, and showers are going to be very isolated in the morning to afternoon Saturday, but it is a possibility. A low 53 and a high of 74. A lot of cloud cover and, again, a spot shower, but by the evening and nighttime, we're going to be dry. Sunday starts dry, warm, and breezy, too. A high of 81 with some gusts to 30 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy during the day, and in the evening, we may see an isolated shower or thunderstorm. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Want a hands-free light that does not strap to your head or held in your mouth? Meet Dex Fingerlight at fingerlight.com. The Kryptonite ring fits any finger, pointing light exactly where you need it. Place decoys, handle gear, get close to roosted gobblers, fast, easy, stealthily. 3 light modes, waterproof, extremely durable. Developed by a father and son's Missouri team, Dex Fingerlight is faster and easier than a headlamp. Use discount code TONY20 for 20% off at fingerlight.com.
Craving the freshest in town? Anthony's Produce is your daily destination for nature's finest. Browse our rainbow of quality fruits and vegetables. Always fresh, always delicious. Hosting an event? Let us create stunning fruit bouquets and fruit or vegetable trays. We proudly stock hundreds of locally made products, seasoned firewood for pickup or delivery, and year-round chocolate-covered strawberries. Open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays. 701 Juggerman Road or anthonysproduce.com.
We talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
101.9 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're... Now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
We're looking forward to the negotiation. I think it's going to be positive. We'll, of course, see. As the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The President has gave us some pretty clear guidelines, and we're going to see. So I hope you guys have a safe flight. We'll certainly take some questions later on. But for now, let's get on the plane and hit the road. Thank you all.
Well, it's going to be a busy weekend all across this planetary globe. That's why you'll need to listen to News Talk STL throughout the weekend. You're going to want to tune into the Randy Tobler Show to see if there's any late-breaking news from that announcement by J.D. Vance there. Randy, of course, will be with you tomorrow morning from 6 to 9 a.m. We got all our weekend shows, and then we'll be back in action with the full lineup on Monday to analyze and explain what's been going on. We also, Chris, are watching the Artemis 2 splashdown, which is going to occur in just around 3 hours from now. And that little golf tournament going on down in Georgia. Lots going on this weekend.
Lots going on. We heard the clip there from the vice president. He is on his way to Islamabad, and we're not even sure if there even is going to be negotiations. Iran has said that they may not show up if Israel does not stop bombing Hezbollah in Lebanon. So kind of tenuous there if there's even going to be negotiations. I hope so.
Yeah, it may put us right back at square one. Thank goodness we've got the congressman from the 3rd Congressional District to give us the latest that he has heard from Capitol Hill. Dr. Bob Onder will be joining us at 4:25. We will, of course, discuss the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, an update on the Save America Act, and his thoughts as a pilot on the Artemis 2 moon mission.
Mm-hmm.
Lots to get to with the good congressman at 4:25. Did we have him last week?
It's been a couple of weeks.
It's hard to remember.
Congress has been on vacation for the last few weeks, and the congressman has been busy doing things in the district. And so we will have him today for the first time in a couple of weeks.
It'll be good to catch up with him at 4:25. At 4:45, we got Chris's Corner today.
Yeah, when did government grants become an entitlement? That is the title of Chris's Corner at 4:45.
We had some interesting economic news come out today regarding core inflation, regarding GDP numbers, and regarding other items. And the Speaker's stump speech is going to try to digest all of that, and the title of that is When It Comes to Government, Less is More. When it comes to government, less is more. Patrick Tuohey will be joining us about halfway through our second hour, about 5:25-ish or so. Patrick Tuohey will be talking about the earnings tax, unfortunately renewed in both Kansas City and St. Louis. No big surprise there. Progressives in the cities in our countries, Chris, they just keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results.
Well, they have convinced the people in Kansas City and St. Louis that 1% earning tax is a necessary part of government spending. I think David Stokes told us, I think it's $500 million a year that the 1% earnings tax brings in. The city budget is $1.5 billion. So that's an easy argument for the left to say that if we cut the 1% earnings tax, that we're going to cut services and other vital needs, and that always seems to work because they're very good at tugging at the heartstrings of the electorate.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, of course, with the Show Me Institute, he does public policy, not politics. However, we can ask him about his thoughts, his personal thoughts on the 2 congressional races that are going to result in 2 brand new Congress people at the August primary who will likely easily win in November. But those 2 congressional seats will largely affect the region which Patrick hails from, the western side of the state. So we're going to have a brand new 5th congressional district, and we have a vacancy. We have an upcoming vacancy in the 6th congressional district because Sam Graves, congressman there for over 20 years, has said he is not running again. He did not file for, I think he withdrew from re-election, and so I think there's I had this number in my head the other day. Okay, so in the 6th congressional district, I think there are 5 people running. And in the 5th congressional district, I think there's 6 people running. I think that's what I looked at the other day. Filing has now closed. Because of those withdrawals, there was some additional time for people to file in those seats and in some of the state House and Senate seats. But I believe as of today, filing is completely closed. And the next time we will, now we look towards the August primary to see who's going to win all these seats across the Show Me State.
And, of course, our good friend Chris DeGaulle from the Herzog Foundation, he has thrown his hat in the ring. He's also a longtime Kansas City talk show host, and he has a national show on Salem. I think that if you had to put your money on anyone on that race, it would be him at this point. But his consultant is probably going to be Axiom Strategies, Jeff Rowe's outfit there in Kansas City and down in Texas. We know that President Trump and his people are not too hype on Jeff Rowe, and so there's been some attacks on Chris DeGaulle over the last couple of days, saying that he is anti-Trump. So that race is going to get very, very interesting.
It will be interesting to see if Donald Trump wades into that race with any sort of an endorsement. I think so far this year the president has a pretty good track record on endorsements on the congressional seats. We'll see if he gets involved in either of these two Missouri races. We do not have we have one statewide race this year. Scott Fitzpatrick, the current auditor, is expected to easily cruise to re-election. So the most important races that are going to get the most attention are going to be a bunch of ballot propositions. We've been talking about the fact there's a new Amendment 3. There's going to be an IP reform. There is going to be likely a tax reform measure. And then we're going to have those big congressional races. So your one-stop shop for all your election news for 2026 is, of course, right here at News Talk STL. We'll be covering all of that leading up to the August primary. Not that far away now. We're 4 months away from the August primary. Hard to believe.
Exactly. And the big economic news today, which was kind of expected since we are in a war and gas prices have gone up. Inflation is at a 2-year record high of 3.3%. Most people expected that because gasoline figures in a lot of the economic numbers. Also, too, the consumer sentiment index reached its all-time low, the low it's never been before. And I think we should expect that, too, because we have the media cheerleading, telling Americans how bad it is. I hear every other minute about how gas prices are high and Americans are paying more for gasoline. They're paying more for food. And so I think that you have to give a lot of credit to the media for driving down that consumer index sentiment today.
Yep, you look at all the metrics, and the media absolutely is in bed with one political philosophy and one political party, and it's not even close. Apple News was exposed a week or two ago with incredibly slanted coverage, like 100-1. Google searches were exposed this week. I don't know how they came up with this ratio, but it was like 180-5. Like if you plug something in about the war in the Middle East, it gave you all the coverage you would want if you were hating Donald Trump and hating America. So incredibly slanted media biases, not just on the networks these days, but on the internet as well. And that's why you got to do your homework, and that's why you should look and listen to lots of different sources, and that's why you should listen to News Talk STL. At 5:45, the moment you've been waiting for all week, Joey V's Movies. Joey's got one of his favorite genres up today, a new horror film that was just released.
Yeah, it's called Faces of Death, and it's based on that 1978 original documentary. But speaking of Faces of Death, have you seen Al Sharpton lately? The guy is, I think, 100 pounds or something. He's doing this National Action Network conference, and Kamala said, yeah, I'll run for president. You excited for that?
Sure. I hope she wins the nomination so
right?
we can make sure we have a Republican president in 2028. Yeah, Reverend Jackson has his National Action Network annual conference. The 35th
Why is it 4 days long?
I don't know. The 35th one. I didn't know he'd been having them that long, and all of the potential 28 presidential candidates, of course, made their pitch to African-American voters. J.B. Pritzker was there. Kamala Harris was there, and as you alluded to, she kind of teased.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
So are you going to run again in 28? I tried to be subtle, but I just figured I'd go right
Well,
at it.
that's as subtle as Reverend Al Sharpton could ever be. Listen, I might. I'm thinking about it. I served for 4 years being a heartbeat away from the presidency of the United States. I spent countless hours in the Oval Office and the Situation Room. I know what the job is. And I know what it requires.
My question would be, Madam Vice President, you spent a heartbeat away from the President of the United States. You spent thousands of hours in the Situation Room, and you didn't see that our leader had dementia. That would be my first question for her.
Exactly. Every time that woman speaks, she says absolutely nothing. Have you noticed that?
She's
like
a
in
master.
that clip right there, she just repeats the obvious. She repeats things that have already happened without really okay, that's great, Kamala, but what are your policies? What are your positions? How are you going to solve problems? She never really tells us anything. And Chris, I found another clip from that. Joey, number 7. This was, you'll love this, Chris. This was her best attempt, I guess, at playing like a mafia character and doing like an Italian accent, and it's as bad as you might expect.
He's pulled back because, the way that he's thinking of foreign policy, it seems, is when he talks about America first, it's to withdraw from these relationships and these connections. And then he kind of acts like a mob boss. So then he's kind of like, well, you take Eastern Europe, and I'll take the Western Hemisphere. And then you over there, you get Asia. And we'll just divide it up. Right?
Do we need any more proof that Kamala Harris inhales?
She's making an offer. You can't refuse.
She sounded constipated there more than anything, didn't she? I mean, I didn't know what that was all about. Joey with the music. It's absolutely fantastic.
Another note with the former Biden administration, we learned today that Hunter Biden is $7 million in debt because of legal fees, his attorney said. And Hunter doesn't even live in the United States anymore. He now lives, people think, in South Africa.
What?
Yes, he has moved out of the United States. He was pictured with his wife in South Africa last week. So he has flown the coop. No longer living in the United States. Hunter.
I was wondering where he's been because he had that last time we heard from him, he do like a 5-hour podcast with somebody where he ranted and raved and complained about everybody. He was trashing his father's administration. He was attacking Republicans. He was attacking Democrats. And then he disappeared. So, Chris, you found him. And apparently he's about as far away from the United States of America as one can possibly get. I say bring him back for 2028 and have Kamala run as well. That would be spectacular for the Republican Party.
And he may come back to the United States because it's been reported that he has challenged the Trump brothers. I don't know if he's going to take them one at a time or both of them to a cage match. So,
wow.
That would be very interesting for charity.
That would make a lot of money for charity.
Maybe you can pay off that $7 million legal debt he has.
$7 million, man. I'll tell you what.
Lawyers are expensive, Tim. You know
We are, yeah. And he's sure had a lot of them. That's for sure. Well, there's the big, giant lineup for today, wrapping things up with Joey V's movies around 5:45. Faces of Death, a new horror film based on the original 1978 documentary. You're going to want to stick around for the entire program because you're going to want to know how many T-Ravs will Joey V give to today's movie. I know you're excited.
I am excited, and it's actually kind of taboo to even talk about this movie, so it's crazy. I'm going to talk about it on the radio.
Is this a documentary as well?
No, it's a serial killer that loves the documentary so much he's inspired to create murders in the same vein.
Now I got a good premise there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you cry? Oh, we'll find out.
Did you throw up?
Yeah,
Did you blow chunks?
That's probably the better question.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we're going to get an update from one of our current sitting congressmen, Dr. Bob Onder, on the conflict in the Middle East and the potential peace talks that may occur tomorrow. We'll also get his thoughts as a trained pilot on the Artemis II moon mission, the Save America Act, Reconciliation 2.0, and more when we come back on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Mostly cloudy tonight, and showers are going to be very isolated in the morning to afternoon Saturday, but it is a possibility. A low 53 and a high of 74. A lot of cloud cover and, again, a spot shower, but by the evening and nighttime, we're going to be dry. Sunday starts dry, warm, and breezy, too. A high of 81 with some gusts to 30 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy during the day, and in the evening, we may see an isolated shower or thunderstorm. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey everyone, it's Todd Showalter with my buddy Joey V. Be sure to join me and Joey for the Right Mind Show, where we put the fun in our dysfunctional world. Saturdays at 5, right here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Do not live in pain. There's no reason for you to do so when you have such great businesses and healthcare providers and docs like at Comprehensive Chiropractic, where I have been visiting for nearly 2 decades now. Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance is the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. They can help you out with all of those musculoskeletal aches and pains and more. Yes, they can treat the traditional chiropractic. They can treat the traditional chiropractic ways of like treating, the back and the neck and the knees and the joints, but they can do so much more as well. They have the Studio Health and Wellness Center. So yes, they want you to come in, they want you to see the docs, but they also want you to do things in between those visits, like doing your best to get into shape. And look, you don't have to be an Ironman triathlete, but just some daily exercise, some weekly exercise. You can get that done right there as well. The Studio Health and Wellness Center on the second floor of Comprehensive Chiropractic. It's a beautiful space, number one. It's a place you'd want to go to work out. They've got Pilates, yoga, and other types of discipline practices. They have licensed massage therapists for all those muscular aches and pains. They've got personal trainers available for you, and they can also help you with your nutritional and dietary needs. That's so important. So the chiropractic care, the wellness care, the holistic supplemental care, getting in shape care, right? You got to have the proper diet and exercise, and that foundational chiropractic care is top-notch, second to none. I am living, breathing proof of that. They've helped me on so many occasions recover from those day-to-day aches and pains, and from accidents I've had over the years, some chronic stuff, some acute stuff. And I always am healed of those things until I have another problem down the road that I usually bring on myself. Comprehensive Chiropractic is available 24/7 at cchiropractic.com. I urge you to check them out. Comprehensive Chiropractic at cchiropractic.com for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Scott, can you believe it's already been more than a decade since the Queen of Carpet sold flooring to St. Louis area contractors?
I know, but I don't have to be a king to offer contractors today's lowest prices.
Yes, contractors owe it to their customers and themselves to shop at Best Buy Flooring for the largest in-stock selection of carpet, carpet tile, sheet vinyl, laminate, hardwood, luxury vinyl plank, and luxury vinyl tile.
Plus 3 convenient locations, North County, South County, and Metro East.
Open 7 days a week.
Best flooring, best selection, Best Buy. Best Buy Flooring.
Hey, it's Susie Moore for Window World. Did you know that in just over the last 20 years, Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis? Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-GET-WINDOWS. They're the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The 4 Artemis astronauts are on track to splash down off the coast of Southern California at around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Pilot Victor Glover on the final hurdle to get home.
And one of the first press conferences we were asked, what are we looking forward to? And I said splashdown, and it's kind of humorous, but it's literal as well, that we have to get back.
Before they reach the Earth's atmosphere, first the Orion spacecraft will separate from the module that's been powering it, revealing Orion's all-important heat shield that will protect the astronauts from the 5,000-degree heat that will be generated as Orion enters Earth's atmosphere at about 24,000 miles per hour.
Dr. Bob Onder, Congressman for Missouri's 3rd District.
We're calling Dr. Bob. We're calling Dr. Bob.
And it's been a couple of weeks, but we're here with our weekly visit with Dr. Bob Onder, Congressman from Missouri's 3rd District. Congressman, how are you?
It's great to be back, Chris.
Great to have you back. Well, the vice president and his team are headed to Islamabad to have negotiations with Iran over the war. There are reports saying that if a deal is struck, that deal may have to come before Congress because of the 2015 Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act. Your thoughts on the potential negotiations and the fact that any deal may have to come before Congress to be approved?
Yeah, Chris, that could be the case. I am not intimately familiar with the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act of 2015. It is my understanding, though, it is a law that requires the president to submit any nuclear agreement with Iran to Congress for a 60-day review before any sanctions would be lifted rather. And it would mandate regular compliance reporting by the president every 90 days, so the Congress could at any time either pass a resolution to keep the sanctions in place, or a disapproval of that Iran is not in compliance. I guess part of the question would be whether this Iran nuclear deal or this any kind of Iran treaty or truce agreement would include a nuclear deal. You would think that it would. So yeah, I think quite possibly any deal would have to come before Congress.
Bob, every president over the last many decades, Republicans and Democrats, have spoken with unity, not on many things, but on one thing regarding Iran. And they've all said that Iran shall not, must not, obtain a nuclear weapon. And Donald Trump is actually the first one who's taken significant action towards that. Legislative leaders like Chuck Schumer have also said the same thing over the years, and I remember Chuck Schumer actually initially opposed Barack Obama's appeasement deal with Iran. Right. Bob, now that the president has taken this action, what do you think about where we currently are, and do you have hopes that we can trust the Iranians as to any deal that's worked out, or do you think maybe we just need to finish the job?
Yeah, Tim, good question. Maybe somewhere in between. I don't know that we'll ever be able to trust the Iranians. And at the same time, any country of the world that is so oil rich, it might be very difficult to prevent them from going back and pursuing a nuclear program in the future. I mean, between last June's, attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, and then this latest one, we've probably accomplished quite a bit. But what exactly finishing the job looks like, it's hard to say. I think we will be, I certainly will be taking my cues from the president on that one. But I think it's entirely possible that we could obtain a peace agreement at this time. But yet, be back worried about Iranian developments, 5 or 10 years from now, and need to do something again. They're just, absent some sort of renaissance of Jeffersonian democracy in Iran, I think Iran may continue to be problematic for years to come.
Speaking with Dr. Bob Onder, Congressman for Missouri's 3rd District. Congressman, the Department of Homeland Security is still shut down. A couple of weeks ago, the House Speaker said that this deal that the Senate struck in the middle of the night was a complete joke. And then he did what some would call a flip-flop and agreed to the deal. We're reading that some of the leadership's closest allies say they're furious with Johnson for what they see as a bait and switch on the DHS bill. What is the sentiment of the caucus there in D.C.?
Yeah, so it's widely, our conference calls are confidential, but it has been very widely reported accurately that we had a conference call last Friday. It went for about 3 hours, and sentiment almost unanimously was against passing the Senate's deal right now, which would the Senate bill would fund DHS but completely defund ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, with the idea that at some later date we would fund ICE and CBP in a so-called reconciliation bill that would only require 50 votes in the U.S. Senate. So I think there's no way that we are just going to pass that Senate bill and then trust the Senate to send us a reconciliation bill later on down the line that would fund ICE and CBP. So I think. If I think the consensus on the call was something to the effect of Senate, go ahead and pass the ICE and CBP reconciliation bill. Then when we have that in hand, we can pass the Senate bill plus the reconciliation bill that funds the rest of that funds ICE and CBP. So anyway, it's kind of a big mess. I never really did like that idea of not funding Homeland Security when we passed the earlier budget bills, but this is where we are right now. So it might be two parts: the Senate bill that funds ICE and Homeland and CBP, and then a separate bill that funds those two agencies.
Speaking to Congressman Dr. Bob Onder, Missouri's congressman for the 3rd Congressional District. Doc, the SAVE Act, my understanding is it's still technically pending on the Senate floor. Can you give us an update with anything you've heard regarding its future prospects or not? And do you and your colleagues still believe that it's highly critical that the Senate do everything it can to pass that before these all-important midterm elections this year?
Yeah, I think it's critical that we pass the SAVE Act. It is a sacred right in a constitutional republic to be able to vote and to not have our votes stolen by someone else, say an illegal alien who is voting illegally. And because so many Democrat-run states have done things that are contrary to election integrity, like allowing illegals to have driver's licenses or even vote in local elections, the SAVE Act becomes more and more important by the year. There's no question that Democrats will not vote for the SAVE Act, that the SAVE Act will not ever get 60 votes, which means getting like 7 Democrat votes in the U.S. Senate. Remember, in 2022, the Democrats were ready to require a talking filibuster, and then if that didn't work, then pass their own anti-election integrity bill by a simple majority vote, and they would have done it, but for Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema opposing that approach. So the Democrats will do it to us. I think we need to get the Save America Act done, whatever it takes. And if that requires at least this one time busting the filibuster, or I would say returning the filibuster to its original intent, which was never that any single bill in the U.S. Senate would require 60 votes. That's kind of ridiculous. I think that's what needs to be done. We need to do the SAVE Act.
Congressman, we've heard a lot of talk about Reconciliation 2.0, but there is talk of even a Reconciliation 3.0. The Budget Committee is working on a third bill that would target fraud, would address priorities in the Save America Act, and fund the war in Iran. What is the progress on Reconciliation 3.0?
Yeah, that's a good question. So 2.0 would be probably, my bet is it's going to be narrowly tailored to pass ICE and CBP, as we just discussed. But I think, yes, I think we do need to do Reconciliation 3.0 for exactly those priorities. And remember, reconciliation bills have to be or are supposed to be budget neutral. And therefore, any bill that requires spending money, let's say, to replenish our munitions expended in the conflict in Iran, they would require offsetting savings elsewhere. And there are tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse, especially in our social welfare programs. So, yes, I think we need to get to work on Reconciliation 3.0 as soon as possible. because once again we have this absurd situation where too many senators believe that you need 60 votes to pass anything in the U.S. Senate. We can get around that through a reconciliation bill.
Mm-hmm. Bob, there was a huge court hearing over the last week or so. I'm trying to remember when that was. The weeks all blend together on birthright citizenship and the applicability and the interplay of the 14th Amendment with that. In addition to being a sitting congressman and a doctor, you also have a law degree. I know you were following that case very closely. What did you take away from the Supreme Court's hearing on that?
Yeah, I think I really do think that the court asked tough questions, both the more conservative judges as well as the liberal justices of both sides, and some media outlets said, "Oh, this means they're going to rule against the Trump administration." After actually, listening to most of that hearing, I didn't take it that way. I think our side, I hate to put it that way, but our side, the more reasonable constitutionalist judges, asked tough questions. But I think there was an opening to revisit this absurd doctrine of birthright citizenship. Look, everyone knows that the reason for the 14th Amendment, talking about those born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereto, it referred to former slaves in the Old South who, Southern Democrat racists would have denied citizenship. So we needed to make it very clear in the Constitution that those former slaves were indeed citizens. The idea that someone can be visiting on a tourist visa or a student visa or illegally cross our southern border and their child is automatically a citizen is completely absurd, because that person is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. They are evading the laws of the United States or abusing their tourist visa in order to have their child in the United States. So, I think very few countries allow birthright citizenship. It's time, as someone said, the 14th Amendment is not a death pact. It had a very specific purpose in its time, and the understanding of the 14th Amendment needs to be set right in this decision.
Congressman, before you all went on your hiatus or your vacation, I don't want to call it that, recess, excuse me, the House Ethics Committee found Florida Representative Sheila Shirtless McCormick guilty of campaign finance fraud. She was accused of using $5 billion in FEMA funds to buy a diamond ring and set up straw donors. She was found guilty. Is there an upcoming vote to expel her from Congress?
Yeah, where that stand? I mean, yeah, and this is not a little clerical campaign finance forms by any means. I mean, she essentially used illegally obtained FEMA funds, emergency funds, in order to fund her campaign and do lots of other fun things with the money. A hearing has been set for April 21st for the House Ethics Committee to examine the case and to recommend to the full House what her disciplinary discipline should be. But I think anything less than expulsion from the House would be a complete and utter travesty. This is just. Calling it an ethics breach. This is, highly criminal activity. She absolutely needs to be expelled.
Bob, before we let you go today, maybe there's some positive news we can end the week on, given everything we've been dealing with over the last few weeks in our country and around the globe. The Artemis II mission is about to splash down in less than 3 hours. As a licensed pilot yourself, I know you're very interested in all things flight and beyond. What are your thoughts on us taking another big, bold step into the galaxy and this Artemis mission? What does it mean for the United States of America?
Well, it is really exciting. It it just emphasizes the ingenuity, the brilliance of NASA engineers, of the American desire to, as John F. Kennedy put, do things like this not because they're easy, but because they are hard. But I will tell you, you have ridden in the in my plane known as the Wacko Bird, and on final, we went about 80 knots, if you recall. This spacecraft will be descending at 9,000 miles per hour.
Wow!
And the friction with the air will hit 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. No, thank you. I have to say though that these astronauts are just incredibly brave officers, of course, in our military, and I can't admire their courage and their toughness enough. But hey, I'm claustrophobic. I don't even like to get in a scanner at the airport, much less this little space capsule for 9 days. And especially that final descent is just terrifying. But we pray that this mission will. The rest of this mission so far has been a terrific success. The rest of this mission will bring these brave men home safely to Earth.
And that is Dr. Bob Onder, Congressman for Missouri's 3rd District, onder.house.gov, and on X, Bob Onder, M.O., Missouri. Thank you, Congressman, for your time, and we'll speak with you again next Friday.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, 442, Chris's Corner. When did government grants become an entitlement? That is the title of Chris's Corner. We'll have that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Mostly cloudy tonight, and showers are going to be very isolated in the morning to afternoon Saturday, but it is a possibility. A low 53 and a high of 74. A lot of cloud cover and, again, a spot shower, but by the evening and nighttime, we're going to be dry. Sunday starts dry, warm, and breezy, too. A high of 81 with some gusts to 30 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy during the day, and in the evening, we may see an isolated shower or thunderstorm. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors USA.
Reminding you that with Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hey, let me tell you about a dental practice I don't just recommend. I'm a proud patient. And if you've heard the show, a couple of weeks ago, we had Dr. Alan Link in studio with us. And, what you hear on air is exactly what you get in person. Dr. Link is knowledgeable, he's professional, and someone who truly cares about his patients. And the Dental Link is run by Dr. Link and his son, Andrew, and you can feel that family atmosphere the moment you walk in. What really stood out to me is the staff. Dr. Link treats his team like family, and it shows. They're relaxed, they're professional, and they make you feel comfortable right away. Now, for me, this is personal. I have dental implants. This isn't cosmetic fluff. This is serious dental work, and they walked me through every step, made sure I was comfortable, and treated me like a person, not a procedure. And if you've been putting this off because you're nervous, listen to this. The Dental Link offers many dental implants, a less invasive option with quicker recovery and less discomfort than traditional implants. I'm telling you, my implants have been a game changer. They look natural, they feel natural, and they gave me back confidence I didn't even realize I'd lost. The Dental Link is located in Baldwin near 141 and Manchester, and you can give them a call today at 636-496-8584. Or check them out at thedentallink.com. Dental Link. Do good, do it well, have fun doing it. That's their motto.
This year, America turns 250, and News Talk STL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. News Talk STL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration. Roman T. Jewelers, Luxury Driver STL, Harry J. Steakhouse, and Snooze Mattress. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
License number GL250000615.
We've seen all kinds of clogs, so remember the rule. Only flush 3 things.
number 1, number 2, and toilet paper.
What about my dinosaurs?
No?
My monster truck?
Nope.
What about...
If it's not the big 3, don't flush it.
But if someone does flush a dinosaur...
Call Grasser. We clear the clog and get things moving again.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my favorite go-to store for seafood, gourmet goodness, and tons of wine. It's Stars, 1135 South Big Bend. A huge selection of seafood flown in from the coast. Lemon sole, halibut, Maryland lump crab, Gulf shrimp, and you gotta try the trout dip. Plus, imported and domestic hand-cut cheeses, lots of hand-picked wines at great prices, hard-to-find gourmet foods, and fresh roasted coffee using only the best quality beans. Stars, 1135 South Big Bend, just off of Highway 40.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at BluffCityOutdoors.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The Justice Department is now opening an investigation into the NFL. A source familiar with the investigation has confirmed that to NBC News. We understand that federal officials are looking into whether the league is forcing its fans to overpay in subscription fees to watch games. Now, football used to be available on broadcast TV, but now the games, they're spread over multiple platforms that often require payment to access. This is all coming just 1 month after Republican Senator Mike Lee wrote a letter saying football fans had to spend nearly $1,000 on cable and streaming services to watch every game last season.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
When did government grants become an entitlement? Let me ask a question that almost nobody in Washington ever asked out loud. At what point did government grants become something organizations think they're entitled to instead of something they apply for and compete for? Because that's really what's at the heart of what's happening right now. All over the country, you have nonprofit organizations, universities, and even government agencies suing the federal government because their grants were cut, their funding was paused, or their programs were canceled. We're talking about organizations like the National Urban League, the National Fair Housing Alliance, the AIDS Foundation of Chicago, the Vera Institute of Justice, the National Council of Nonprofits, major university groups like the Association of American Universities, and even government agencies like the Chicago Transit Authority are all going to court to restore taxpayer-funded grants and programs. And the language being used is very interesting. They're not saying we're disappointed. They're not saying we're going to adjust. They're saying we're suing because our funding was taken away. Think about that for a second. Taken away? Taxpayer money isn't something that belongs to an organization. It belongs to the taxpayers. The government doesn't create money. It redistributes money that it takes from people who are working, running businesses, and paying taxes. So the real question is not just why did the government cut this funding? The bigger question is, why do these organizations believe they are entitled to it in the first place? Government grants were originally designed to fund things that were clearly in the national interest, like infrastructure, scientific research, public safety, major medical research, transportation, defense, big national priority items. But over time, what happened? An entire grant economy has developed. Whole organizations exist not because customers choose them, not because donors voluntarily fund them, not because they sell a product, but because they are very good at writing grant applications and getting government money. In other words, their customer isn't the public, their customer is the government. And when the government changes priorities, which happens every time a new administration comes in, suddenly these organizations act like something was stolen from them. But that's not how grants are supposed to work. A grant is not a lifetime appointment. A grant is not guaranteed income. A grant is not a property right. A grant is temporary funding for a specific purpose for a specific period of time under a specific set of priorities set by the people who were elected. And this is where elections have consequences. If voters elect an administration that says we want less spending here, more spending there, we don't want to fund these programs, we do want to fund these programs, that's not corruption, that's not theft, that's democracy. Now you can disagree with the priorities. That's fair. That's politics. That's America. But suing the government because you didn't get taxpayer money anymore, that raises a bigger philosophical question that nobody in Washington wants to talk about. When did government funding become an entitlement for organizations? Because most Americans listening right now don't have guaranteed income. Most Americans don't get to sue the government if their industry changes. And most Americans don't get a check from Washington if their business model stops working. They have to adopt. They have to change. They have to find customers. They have to find donors. They have to find a new way to operate. But in Washington, there is a whole ecosystem that believes taxpayer money should continue flowing no matter who wins elections, no matter what the priorities are, and no matter what the voters say. And that's really what this fight is about. It's not about grants, it's not about budgets. It's about a fundamental question. Who does the government work for? The taxpayers or the government that have grown dependent on taxpayer money? That's not a Republican question. That's not a Democrat question. That's an American question. And it's a question we're going to be debating more and more in the years ahead because the federal government is tens of trillions of dollars in debt. And at some point, somebody's going to have to decide what gets funded, what doesn't, and who that money really belongs to in the first place. That is Chris's Corner.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, then you have no accountability for these programs, and then you have Minnesota, and then you have riots because people don't want to talk about those things. Chris, there was a huge press conference yesterday I happened to stumble across. It was the California Attorney General, right? He's Democrat, and he was having this big, huge press conference about the fact that he was engaging in a massive fraud investigation, and he was going to go after all the bad people in California that are defrauding the government to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm like, well, number one, welcome to the party.
Yeah.
Number two, I'm glad to see a Democrat actually finally admitting that there is massive amounts of fraud in these programs. And number three, he couldn't help himself. He could have done the whole press conference and not mentioned the president. He said, well, we're doing this not because of Donald Trump. And I thought to myself, you're doing this because of Donald Trump.
Exactly. And, you know, we have learned over the years that a lot of that government funding goes to study the sexual habits of some South American monkey or some scientific research that really has nothing to do with humans, but they got a grant money, and that pays the professors and the researchers to do research that really doesn't amount to much. So I hope we have some entitlement reform when it comes to these grants and research grants and things of that nature, because it has completely gotten out of hand.
It has, and it's not a Republican or a conservative talking point, and I'll just point people, if there's any of our lovable liberal listeners listening right now, go pull up that California Attorney General's press conference yesterday. He admitted that there is massive fraud, and for whatever reason, he's decided now to go after it, but he basically said, well, this is a California investigation, and we don't need the federal government, but there's all this fraud, and we're going to root it out just like we've been doing for several decades. I'm like, well, why haven't you several decades? Why don't you have a handle on this? And they apparently don't.
You know, the last few weeks, the administration has made some changes in the cabinet. Of course, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, she was let go last week. Before that was the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. There have been many others that people have said may be on their way out. One of them, of course, is FBI Director Kash Patel, the Labor Secretary, who has ethics investigations that are targeted against her. But we're also learning that someone that was on the hot seat was Tulsi Gabbard. The reports are saying that Donald Trump was ready to dismiss her, but Roger Stone and some of the people that work for her stood in for her and convinced the president not to fire her. Roger Stone didn't deny or confirm that, but he wrote on X yesterday that, quote, he interceded on Gabbard's behalf. Fortunately, I acted in time. So it sounds like Tulsi Gabbard was on her way out, but Roger Stone saved her.
And she's still there.
She is still there. All right, we've got coming up Speaker Stump Speech.
Yes. When did government grant? Oh, that's your Chris. I'm reading your Chris's point. I wrote it down. See, I wrote it down. It's very similar. When it comes to government, less is more. When it comes to government, less is more.
And we'll have our bi-weekly visit with Patrick Tuohey. He's a senior fellow at the Show Me Institute. We're going to talk to him about the 1% earnings tax that passed in St. Louis, and I assume in Kansas City as well. And we'll talk to him about a Kansas City grant program that's trying to fill empty storefronts ahead of the World Cup. And then finally, at 5:45, Joey V's Movies. Faces of Death is a new horror film based on the original 1978 documentary. We'll have to ask, how many toasted ravs will Joey give out of this? 5 out of 5, 1 out of 5. Did he cry? Did he puke? Did he throw up? Was there enough gore?
Have you noticed I'm playing serial killer music today?
I noticed.
I'm playing the theme from Scream right now, actually. And before that, it was Silence of the Lambs and then American Psycho. Let's see what comes up in the next hour.
Let's see what comes up next. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk in St. Louis.
You don't have no self-respect. You feel like an insect. Well, don't you worry, buddy, 'cause here he comes.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
His shadow is cast wherever he stands. Stacks of green paper in his red right hand.
Hey folks, it's Jamie Allman here for the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway. I love this team so much, and Rodney and Jen love the team so much, I became a member. So now I'm an agent with the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that we're going to get you into a home really super easily and with the lowest cost you're ever going to find, and make sure we find you that dream home. We're also going to list your home and get the top dollar for your home. I'm telling you, Rodney and Jen love this business. You can tell it is infectious, and I'm so happy to be a real estate agent there with them. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD. Whether you are buying your home or selling your home, I'm telling you what, the costs are going to be absolutely totally minimal, but the professionalism and getting the job done for you is going to be 100%. The Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
This spring into savings with Johnson Heating and Cooling. Rebates up to $600 off a complete HVAC system. And here's the deal. Purchase a complete system and get a free humidifier. Plus, financing available up to 0% for 60 months. Don't miss out. These offers expire June 30th. Visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com. That's johnson-heatingandcooling.com. Johnson Heating and Cooling. Your comfort, our priority.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Vice President J.D. Vance is en route to Pakistan to lead negotiations with Iran during the current ceasefire agreed to by President Trump and the Iranian regime. Issues on the table include a final end to Iran's nuclear program and reopening the Strait of Hormuz for oil ships. But on the Salem News program this week on Capitol Hill with Tony Perkins, House Speaker Mike Johnson says America also needs to address persecution of Christians by radicals in Iran.
They have no value for human life. I mean, they're radical Islamists, fundamentalists. They're jihadis. They see everyone else as an infidel, worthy of death. So yes, human rights is at the center of this. We've got to make sure that they do They basically abide by international conventions on what is acceptable, and protecting religious freedom and human rights is essential.
Speaker Johnson's full interview will be heard when This Week on Capitol Hill is broadcast beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time Saturday on the Salem News Channel. Kuwait blames Iran for drone attacks as President Trump questions the ceasefire.
Gulf state Kuwait has accused Iran of launching drone attacks despite the ceasefire in the Iran war. Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard has denied the claim. The Kuwaiti statement comes as President Donald Trump has cast doubt on the effectiveness of the two-week ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has offered a potential boost to peace efforts by approving direct talks with Lebanon. The government in Beirut has not yet responded. Talks between the US and Iran have been expected this weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan. I'm Charles de la Tesma.
On Wall Street, the Dow down by 289 points, but the Nasdaq rose 80. The S&P 500 lower by 7 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
When you're vacationing in your RV, there are some things you can always count on. Taking the kayaks out on the lake, hot dogs on the grill, and your sister's boyfriend pulling out his acoustic guitar.
Everyone quiet! Harrison's playing. Wow, you're so good, Harrison.
With Progressive, your RV is protected 24/7, so you're prepared for whatever you don't see coming. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in D.C.
Now in movie theaters from Sight and Sound Films.
George Whitfield has arrived to awaken the colonies.
One man was led by faith.
Arise! Come forth!
The other was a man of reason.
I am just the lightning rod. And who is the source, Ben?
In movie theaters nationwide, an unlikely friendship shaped a nation.
One candle illuminates 1,000.
A great awakening. Now playing in theaters. Rated PG-13.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Mostly cloudy tonight, and showers are going to be very isolated in the morning to afternoon Saturday, but it is a possibility. A low 53 and a high of 74. A lot of cloud cover and, again, a spot shower, but by the evening and nighttime, we're going to be dry. Sunday starts dry, warm, and breezy, too. A high of 81 with some gusts to 30 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy during the day, and in the evening, we may see an isolated shower or thunderstorm. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
The party happens Saturday in Troy. Mike Ferguson here, and my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors invite you to the Gobbler Gear Up. It's in the parking lot. Come for the authentic gumbo and crawfish broil, the live music, and over $5,000 in raffle prizes. And all turkey gear and clothing, 20% off. The Gobbler Gear Up is free, and it happens Saturday from 9:30 to 4:30 at Whistle Pig Outdoors, 651 Main Street, and whistlepigoutdoors.com.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at newstalkstl.com.
Brought to you by Heroes Care, Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, Michael's Funeral Home, and Freddie's Market.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community, Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Number one for live and local conservative talk.
I just would like to get your comments on that. I'm so glad that you're on the radio, and I want to thank you for that.
I'll tell you why.
101.9 and 94.1.
I love these people.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
core month over month, 0.2%. We were looking for 0.3%. So actually, the core month over month coming in just a little bit better than expected. And then core year over year also a little bit better than expected, 2.6%. We were looking for a gain of 2.7%.
Yeah, wartime, oil has spiked. Everyone expected inflation to therefore reflect that, but it wasn't as high as the forecasters suggested. Still a far cry from the nearly 10% we had during the Biden years, but something definitely to keep an eye on. I'm going to address that in Speaker Stump Speech in a minute. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Happy that it is Friday, as I'm sure you are all as well. We got lots to get to this hour. After the Speaker Stump Speech, we'll have Patrick Tuohey join us. He's our brother from another mother on the other side of the state. He's with the Show Me Institute. We'll talk about the Kansas City grant program trying to fill empty storefronts ahead of the World Cup. Boy, Chris, the things that these interurban, usually Democratic leaders do to like window dress everything, and then it all goes back to crap again after they're gone.
Yeah, wasn't that in Los Angeles? There was a big event out there, and Governor Newsom made sure that all the homeless were
Super Bowl,
that the homeless were not in sight. They were put away somewhere. So window dressing, that's what they do because their policies are failures.
And it's funny because ahead of the Super Bowl, or we're seeing this ahead of the World Cup, the Olympics usually require. And it's amazing, Chris, what these leaders can do when they need to do something. When they need to do something, they can clean everything up. They can take care of the homeless. Mm-hmm. They can get rid of all the graffiti and the desecration. They can stop the riots. Everyone behaves themselves for a few weeks. And then people who are visiting the city go, wow, wow, San Francisco looks pretty nice. New York looks pretty good. L.A. looks all right. Chicago looks fine. So these cities can be great again, but the leaders apparently don't want them to be.
Yeah, we had an example of that right here in St. Louis a few weeks ago when the NCAA tournament was in St. Louis. There was a curfew for teams downtown so there wouldn't be any mayhem while our out-of-town visitors were here. There were no incidents, no murders, no crime or anything. People got a good look at St. Louis, may have thought it was much safer than it is. And I argued that since the curfew worked so well for that weekend, it's something that should be in place all the time.
Yeah, we want people to feel that St. Louis is safe, not just for special events, but that it's safe 24/7. Events are being, look, we still have the Cardinals for now. We still have the Blues for now. We have the St. Louis City soccer team. So we have these sporting venues, and the areas around them seem to be okay. But I just heard this week that another major event was canceled for the Soulard area. They canceled the Cherokee Street event. They blamed it on ICE somehow. They said, we don't want ICE to come in and arrest everyone because it was a Hispanic-themed event. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I think they're trying to cover for the fact that people just don't want to go downtown as much anymore.
Yeah, and also the crime is an issue. I also read that 30,000 people attend that Cinco de Mayo festival down there on Cherokee, and they didn't have the funds because of the economy is not doing as well, and also the reason that they felt that ICE would be there and would arrest a bunch of illegals.
Yeah, so the city seems to be really good at losing things, whether it's events or businesses or people.
Yeah.
And they've got to turn it around.
We've lost two big conventions in here. If you remember, the NRA used to have their annual convention here in St. Louis every year. That has now moved to Texas. And one of the church groups, a Black Pentecostal organization or church, used to have their convention here every year. That's been moved, I think, to Memphis or somewhere in Tennessee. So we've lost a lot of big conventions here in St. Louis because of crime. And with that young lady from Indiana, I think, that lost her legs due to that driver who hit her, that has really put a black eye on St. Louis. And a lot of these conventions are going elsewhere because of the perception that St. Louis is just not safe.
They're going to cities around us. And I'm glad that we still attract some. I was surprised, actually, that we had one of the NCAA regionals.
I was, too, to be honest with you.
Kind of nice we had it. We have March. We have Arch Madness every year. Yeah. The Missouri Valley Conference plays here. And those events are great, but they're kind of one-offs versus, what happens in between those? Not much downtown. And a perfect comparative example would be go to another Midwest regional town such as Nashville, Louisville, or Indianapolis on any off week, and you'll see people walking around downtown. I was in Louisville 2 weeks ago on a random Friday afternoon, and we were right in the middle of downtown, and there were people walking around all over the place. Yeah. They've created things there, like the whole Urban Bourbon Trail event, and they have other things going on. And you see people of all ages, of all colors, from all over the Midwest there, walking around on a late Friday afternoon. There was no huge event drawing them there. They were just heading down to downtown Louisville for the weekend.
And it's almost kind of a chicken and the egg situation. Crime is an issue. People are afraid of that. But also, if you go to our downtown or you go to the St. Louis riverfront, there's nothing down there. There's nothing to do. When I was growing up, you could go down to the riverfront and you had the McDonald's boat. You had the Becky Thatcher, you had the Admiral, you had helicopter tour flights going around. You go down there now, there's nothing. There is nothing to do. You can rent a bike and, and ride up and down the riverfront, but there's no activities. Laclede Landing is just a shell of what it is. It used to be a big draw for tourists. There's nothing to draw people downtown. I don't know if that's because there's a lack of businesses or it's people are afraid of crime or a little bit of both.
Yeah, when we drove back to St. Louis on Sunday afternoon, there was a Cardinal baseball game going on, and so there was a lot of activity around the stadium as we were driving past as we crossed the river. Mm-hmm. But to your point, I looked over at the riverfront. It's empty.
There's nothing there.
With the exception of one barge, that the helicopter ride guy.
They still have that?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. One barge. That's it. That riverfront used to be stacked with all sorts of things that you could go down to. Now, we do have the renovated Arch grounds, which I hear are spectacular with the museum. I need to go. I haven't been either. I need to see that. But that's up there. Why is our riverfront completely vacant? It used to be one of the biggest draws to the St. Louis region.
One of the biggest draws. I don't understand why, there hasn't been a plan for redevelopment of the riverfront.
I wish the city leaders would work on that. Hey, one of the things we're working on, that the legislators in our state are working on over the next 5 weeks, is whether or not we should overhaul, update, replace our antiquated income tax system. Our own Mike Ferguson will be hosting a town hall on that very issue. The Road to Zero Income Tax Town Hall, presented by News Talk STL, AFP Missouri, and Mo Tax Relief Now, featuring Missouri State Senator Nick Schroer, friend of the station, friend of the show, and Representative Ben Keithley, also as well. Thursday, April 30th. That is right around the corner, folks. I hate to tell you that, man. April is zipping right along. About less than 3 weeks from now, April 30th, Thursday, the Lodge at DePere. Join STL's Mike Ferguson, Senator Nick Schroer, Representative Ben Keithley for a discussion about the plan to phase out Missouri's income tax. Bring your questions. Doors open at 6, program and Q&A at 6:30. You can look at newstalkstl.com for all the details on that. We have tons of events coming up in May and June as well. Every event that we help host, sponsor, and present is at newstalkstl.com. Patrick Tuohey will join us at 5:25. We'll talk about the failure of the earnings tax. Well, actually, it did get renewed. There's always a question on there every few years about whether it should not in St. Louis and Kansas City. We'll talk about the KC grant program to fill the empty storefronts ahead of the World Cup and more. And then the moment we all been waiting for, 5:45, Joey V's movies, Faces of Death. Joey, that's the based on the old horror film from the 70s, right?
Yeah, 1978. Some people to this day still think it's real. I'll let you know at 5:45.
I'm very eager to hear the trailer for this movie.
Of course. I'll play it twice for you.
Okay. I'm really eager to hear
that. Hey, without further ado, let's get to today's Speaker Stump speech. When it comes to government, less is more.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
So why do I say that? When it comes to government, less is more. Well, we're seeing it play out before our very eyes. Look, I know there's a lot of trepidation and a lot of economic concern around the war in the Middle East, but look at our numbers. Look at our numbers. Even in the middle of a war with the inflationary pressures of oil, look at where we are with inflation. During the Biden regime, when we weren't engaged in a war of our own doing, I mean, there was a lot of wartime activity swirling around us with the Russia-Ukraine conflict and other things that Joe Biden just kind of ignored or didn't know were going on. Our inflation, because of all that massive Democratic-led government spending, touched 10%. And many say when you looked at some of the core items that we were well into the double digits. I know the price at the pump is a bit of a shock to people these days, but did you know that in real numbers, adjusted for inflation, that we are still below where Joe Biden's oil per barrel was during its peak? And even when you go back in time and compare things during the Bush era and the Obama era, we are still, those eras also had major conflicts, and we're still right around there. But we were in much worse straits. Why are we not in such a horrible economic situation? Well, because we at least have some control over our government spending, and we have not been spending trillions of dollars of government money, which is your money, taxpayer money. All that money has been residing in the private sector. Now, here's some other economic news. Did you know that the average refund this year, because of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the big tax overhaul, which preserved the Trump 1.0 tax cuts, the average tax refund for a median American family of four, middle-class American family of four, is nearly $4,000 higher than it has been in previous times. Wages are also on the rise. 3 examples of why when it comes to government, less is more. First, a quote from one of the greatest free market capitalists of our era, the great Milton Friedman. He said, "Many people want the government to protect the consumer. A much more urgent problem is to protect the consumer from the government." Why did Milton Friedman say that? Well, if you look at study after study after study, to the point where you will be exhausted, you will see something rise to the fore. Anytime the government inserts itself in anything in the private sector, whether it's child care, that's a very popular position. The left wants government to now run child care. When you look at health care, when you look at other things that the government has stuck its nose into, pharmaceutical prices, you know what happens? You know what happens to that? So when you know what happens to that once untouched private sector matter? Every single time the government passes a bill, says it's going to fix something, it's going to make it more affordable, it always makes it less affordable, and it always makes it harder to access. It has happened time and time again. And even voters in purple to blue states are now rebelling against some of these crazy leftist progressive ideas. How about Abigail, as many are calling her, Scamburger, who just won the gubernatorial mansion in the Commonwealth of Virginia? They said that the storyline is that there has never been a politician who has suffered a more dramatic drop in their popularity rating quicker than Abigail Spanberger. Now, remember, many would argue that Virginia is no longer a red state, that it's a purple state, and there are some who say, no, it's a blue state. Okay, well, fine. Let's say it is a blue state. Even in the blue state with the leftist progressives of Northern Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, who won a double-digit victory back in last November, has had a massive double-digit plunge in her popularity rating. Well, why is that? Well, not even many Democrats like to pay more in taxes. One of the first things that Abigail Spanberger did was put more government into every aspect of Virginians' lives. She, fresh out of the gate, she sprinted to the left on a series of issues, including these wildly unpopular proposed tax increases on Virginia business owners. She also is leading what is becoming a very unpopular redistricting effort. As a consequence, her approval rating, just think about this, over the last she's only been in office 4 months, her approval rating has absolutely cratered. So in response to that, she decided, well, let's do more government on top of the government that I've added. She claims that she's attracting all these jobs and all this additional investment. But actually, if you look at the wins that she's claiming, those were things that her predecessor, Governor Glenn Youngkin, already had inked before he left office. So she's trying to take credit for things that the previous Republican administration already did. How about tax increases in other parts of the country? Well, when it comes to the blue states, people continue to leave them because in every single blue state, They think that more government is the answer, but we, as I've been telling you, know that the less government is the better. In the state of Washington, the governor there just signed, a state that used to not have an income tax at all. The governor has signed a 9.9% income tax on earnings over $1 million. You know what that's going to result in? All of the millionaire business owners leaving, and with them, the jobs they provide and the jobs, the benefits, and the prosperity they provide to middle-income families. Rhode Island, a very, very high-tax state, is now considering an additional 3% surtax on incomes over $1 million. In New York, of course, Comrade Mondami proposing another 2% income tax increase on high-income earners. Get this, if you live in Manhattan, you could now pay a top rate of nearly 20%. That's just the Manhattan portion. That's not even talking about what you would pay to the state of New York and to the federal government on top of that. California, we've talked about the infamous billionaires tax. It's not even passed yet, and already nearly a dozen billionaires have picked up and left California, some of them who lean quite to the left. And in Michigan, an additional 5% income surtax on high earners, raising their top marginal rate to 9.25%. New Jersey and Maryland have recently implemented or are considering increases in corporate taxes and top income tax brackets. What does that all lead to? It leads to people leaving those states. ALEC, who I do some work for here in the Midwest, the American Legislative Exchange Council, they're going to release their Rich States, Poor States 19th edition next week, and I'm just going to make a really wild, crazy prediction that we're going to see that the red states continue to pick up people in prosperity while the blue states continue to lose them. I don't know how much more often these blue states will continue to pursue the very definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, more taxes, more regulations, and expecting a different result. The same result keeps occurring. People are leaving and moving from blue to red. Let's just hope they don't take their progressive policies with them. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
Yeah, and the appeal that Mondami and the governor of New York are using, that you need to be patriotic and give your money to pay for our liberal programs, is not working.
It is not indeed. When we come back, we'll ask Patrick Tuohey if this Kansas City grant program to fill up empty storefronts ahead of the World Cup, we'll ask him if he thinks that might work. And what's up with the earnings tax? Why do people want to continue to pay more to failed governments? All that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Mostly cloudy tonight, and showers are going to be very isolated in the morning to afternoon Saturday, but it is a possibility. A low 53 and a high of 74. A lot of cloud cover and, again, a spot shower, but by the evening and nighttime, we're going to be dry. Sunday starts dry, warm, and breezy, too. A high of 81 with some gusts to 30 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy during the day, and in the evening, we may see an isolated shower or thunderstorm. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Are you struggling with life's pressures? The Flot Line has answers. Join host Rick Hughes for biblical principles and learn how to build a spiritual flot line in your soul. Discover God's plan for your life. Sunday mornings at 9:30 on News Talk STL.
Want a hands-free light that does not strap to your head or held in your mouth? Meet Dex Fingerlight at fingerlight.com. The Kryptonite ring fits any finger, pointing light exactly where you need it. Place decoys, handle gear, get close to roosted gobblers, fast, easy, stealthily. 3 light modes, waterproof, extremely durable. Developed by a father and son's Missouri team, Dex Fingerlight is faster and easier than a headlamp. Use discount code TONY20 for 20% off at fingerlight.com.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon.
Now let's get you caught up on the biggest issues around the region. One of the biggest is the St. Louis earnings tax. You can see it passed there with 85% of the vote, only 15% voting no. The 1% earnings tax is paid by people who live or work in the city, and it must be renewed by voters every 5 years.
And now a man who comes alive when there's bad public policy in Missouri, Patrick Tuohey.
Back with us once again, senior fellow at the Show Me Institute, Patrick Tuohey, joining us once again. Patrick, Joey does a movie review every Friday at 5:45, and today he's got another horror film. It's his favorite genre. Talk about a horror film, though, Patrick. The renewal of the earnings tax. Voters just keep doing the same scary thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right?
Congratulations on that segue. Yes, you talked in your speaker stump speech about how people are leaving high tax states, and it's not just states, of course, it's cities as well. Plenty of people are leaving St. Louis and they're heading out to the county. The earnings tax isn't the only reason, but it is one of them. And out here in Kansas City, where I am, Kansas City is one of the slowest growing cities in our metro area, and it's got the highest, per capita spending by far of any of those same municipalities. And what the earnings tax does is it says, well, if we can't keep you in the city, we're going to try to tax you at the exits. And of course, it just encourages people to pick up and leave. And I again, if you wanted to tick off the number of challenges of living in Kansas City and St. Louis, there are plenty of them, but the tax structure is not inconsiderable. We're just creating an incentive for people to not move to our cities in the first place. And when they're here, we're encouraging them to leave. And that's no way to run a government.
Patrick, there's little to no opposition to the 1% earning tax whenever this comes up every 5 years. How do you convince Kansas Cityans and St. Louisans to cut 36% of the general revenue in St. Louis and 45% of the general fund for Kansas City by eliminating this 1% income tax? How do you make a good argument to them to, in some cases, almost cut half the budget?
Well, it is a challenge. And part of that is because when I first moved to Kansas City 20 years ago, I was talking to a former member of the city council, and I was new to the city, and I said, hey, I don't want to be the guy who just moved here from the East Coast and ask what the hell is wrong with Kansas City. Well, what the hell is wrong with Kansas City? And he told me, and again, this guy used to serve on the city council. He said, look, anybody who cares about opening a business or good schools or low taxes has already left. So the people that are left in the city are inclined to vote for taxes because oftentimes it's not them that are paying it. One of the arguments we hear in Kansas City, and you probably hear it there in St. Louis, is, hey, there's no plan B. What are we going to do? And they've had, 15 years now to come up with an idea, something, and they have no incentive to think about it because they want to be able to say when it comes up, oh, my gosh, we don't know what to do. Well, the Show Me Institute has been writing about how damaging the earnings tax is since 2007. And we released a paper talking about, you could switch to a different type of tax structure. But again, there are hundreds of cities just like Kansas City and St. Louis that do not have an earnings tax and yet are able to deliver all the services. What people in St. Louis should be asking themselves is, why are we different? Why can't we be like other cities? Why do we have to have this oppressive, regressive tax that's toughest on the poor? Why can't we do better? And we need more people asking that question and, frankly, demanding answers from their leaders.
Yeah, and Patrick, when you combine that with the crime problems too, right? And we've talked about this with you many times over the last few weeks. Even though the statistics appear and concretely seem to be getting better, it's all relative, right? We were in a very, very horrible place, and so we're just maybe not as horrible. But when you combine a lack of safety and security for the public, and then you add to that a really bad economic model, it's like we're not just doing one or two things wrong in St. Louis and Kansas City compared to many of our other regional sister and brother cities. We're doing like everything wrong, it seems.
Yes, and in Kansas City and probably St. Louis as well, what that looks like is every part of government just points to the other. Right. So the city says, well, it's the crime problem, points to the police, and the police says, well, it's the county because we don't have the jail we need, or it's the prosecutor who's not locking these people up, or they might say it's the school district. And so they all kind of pass the buck around. Meanwhile, the cities just don't get better. And, one of the arguments I made in a column for the Kansas City Star is I just kind of pointed out, look, the tax is regressive. So even if you are a household that is exempt from paying federal income taxes because your income is below a certain threshold, you still have to pay the earnings tax. But if you're wealthy and earn your income from investments, you do not have to pay the earnings tax. And what do these cities do with the earnings tax? Well, it allows them, certainly in Kansas City, to dole out lavish subsidies to those same wealthy people to build their corporate headquarters, right? So I made the point in the article that it's regressive. It enables this subsidy culture. It chases people out of the city. And when the Kansas City Star editorial board endorsed a yes vote, and when another liberal columnist of the Star endorsed a yes vote, they conceded all my arguments. They said in those pieces, yes, it's regressive. Yes, it enables the subsidy culture. Yes, it is bad for the local economy, but, let's just hope that our city leaders do better in the future. It was totally a wimpy statement. And then, of course, what happens in Kansas City 2 days later? The city announces that we want to give $600 million to build a stadium downtown. So until voters say, no, we can't trust you to do better, we just have to take this away from you, then things won't get better.
Patrick, we've talked with you over the weeks about crime in St. Louis and Kansas City. The statistics say that crime is going down. You've done studies on that as well. And this is strictly anecdotal evidence, and we've talked about its perception more than anything. Just last week here in St. Louis, we had a 13-year-old that shot and killed a 14-year-old at a track meet. And just yesterday, I read in the newspaper that a woman that was working at a local drive-through restaurant was shot in the torso and killed because her onion ring order was wrong. I mean, we just hear story after story about that here in St. Louis and around the state. And it's just, I know statistics, say one thing, but the perception is just horrible, especially when you have terrible tragedies like this.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And part of, and this isn't going to make anybody feel better, but part of the challenge for St. Louis is that it's been seen as having a crime problem for 40 or 50 years. And so Tim's exactly right. The city may be getting better, but saying that we're slightly less horrible than we were in the past isn't a compelling yay us argument. It needs to be done. We need these trends to continue. But you're exactly right. It's stories like that, and I don't want to beat up on the media. It is events like that, and it is just the inability of the city to to look clean, to look well kept, to look cared for, that gives people, even when they're completely safe, when they're walking through part of the city, to just feel like I'm in a place that people don't care about and I don't feel safe. And what was the, pardon my ignorance of baseball, but wasn't there just a game the other day where one of the announcers said there's nobody walking around downtown?
Yes.
And that's part of it. Like, and I don't envy anybody at any city hall who has to do this, but it must be done. Stop spending money on these big projects to bring people in and spend that money on basic services. Cut the grass, fix the sidewalks, make sure the streets are well lit, clean up the graffiti, do that stuff. That has to be done. You can't just hope that a new big employer or a new big subsidy is going to solve those problems.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, it was St. Louis Cardinals versus the Mets. One of the Mets announcers was remarking on the fact that St. Louis looked like the setting of a science fiction movie where you have one of those like hydrogen bombs go off that don't affect the buildings but just wipe out all the people. He's like, there's nobody down here. Yeah. That's what we got.
Again, it's heartbreaking. So both of you are exactly right. The data is promising, but we need years and years more of it and more and better government responding to those kind of environmental things that just make you feel safe or unsafe.
Patrick, as you know, Tuesday was an election, and we've talked with you over the weeks about data centers, how that is a controversial issue. In one of the cities here in our area, Festus, 4 Festus city council members were voted out, and these 4 council members had voted in favor of a data center. The public just aren't buying these data centers, and they're voting with their votes to kick these people out. They're angry.
Yeah, I was reading in the New York Post earlier today about that exact event, and I was disappointed that the story didn't talk more about the subsidies. There are a lot of reasons people don't like data centers, and a lot of the reasons that get attention are, environmental concerns or things like that. Really, it should be the subsidies, because if you're building a data center, what do you care about? You want to deliver that product for as cheap as you can. So you want to minimize the cost by square footage. You want to minimize the cost of energy consumption, right? You want to do it for as cheaply as possible. But when the government comes in and, well, don't worry about how big a piece of land you're taking because we're not going to charge you property tax. Or don't worry about the amount of energy you're going to use because we're going to subsidize your energy use. Like you take away really important considerations for those data centers. And we want people who build data centers to face all those market realities so that they build smaller, more efficient systems. Again, people can have environmental concerns and placement concerns. I don't know enough about that to have an opinion because there's plenty for me to say just on the subsidy part. But I love this story because I want more local and state officials to respect the people that they are supposedly representing. And so broadly, I think that's a good story. The people stood up. They demanded something different. We need that elsewhere in Missouri and throughout the country.
Patrick, Chris and I were laughing about this story earlier because if we didn't laugh, we'd cry. There's apparently a Kansas City, Missouri grant program to fill empty storefronts ahead of the World Cup. Patrick, I feel like we've seen this movie before.
It's embarrassing. So the city is telling us, first they're saying, hey, World Cup is coming. It's going to be an economic boon. We're going to see all this sales tax. Everybody's going to get rich. It's going to be wonderful. And then the city also says, hey, guys, nobody's filling in these empty storefronts. We're going to give you, I think, $10,000 if you occupy it. And, of course, what's going to happen is the same reasons that these people don't want to be in those spaces now will be true as soon as World Cup ends, and those places will be vacant again. So we've got a policy that's intent not on fixing the problems of the city for the people who live here. It's intent upon making the city look like something it isn't for the few weeks that we've got people from all over the world here. So it's a Band-Aid. And I would rather have city acting on the interests of the people who live here and pay taxes rather than, building a Potemkin village so that people from Argentina or, Serbia or England or Germany think differently of us while we're here. We need to fix these basic problems, not just, put makeup on a pig.
And finally, Patrick, do you have any thoughts on the city of St. Louis suing over the state takeover of the police? They are calling it a unfunded mandate to be able to pour more money into resources for the police. Say they just don't have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not an attorney, so I wouldn't deign to have an opinion on the legal maneuvering, but you would like to have the state and the city rowing in the same direction, which is we want to solve crime. We want to make sure people are safe, and this lawsuit seems to be something other than that. And so to the degree that it's not the city saying, let's work together to solve this problem, it seems like picking a fight, and, I want to say it's beneath the city to do that.
Patrick Tuohey with the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org. Patrick Tuohey, at Patrick Tuohey on Twitter X. Patrick, thanks for everything. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, my friend.
Likewise, gentlemen. Take care.
As well. All right, it's 5:41, nearly 5:42. Plenty of time for us to take a quick break, step aside, and then come back for the much-anticipated Joey V's Movies review, Faces of Death.
Good voice. You have a voice in the radio or movie business.
Mom's very happy I get paid to talk.
In a world.
Yes. We'll talk about that, maybe the tradition like no other, the Masters, and more when we prepare you for your weekend. Do you want to go see this horror flick? Joey V will tell you if it's worth it or not when we come back on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Mostly cloudy tonight, and showers are going to be very isolated in the morning to afternoon Saturday, but it is a possibility. A low 53 and a high of 74. A lot of cloud cover and, again, a spot shower, but by the evening and nighttime, we're going to be dry. Sunday starts dry, warm, and breezy, too. A high of 81 with some gusts to 30 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy during the day, and in the evening, we may see an isolated shower or thunderstorm. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Worried at all about the condition of your roof? Well, don't worry. Turn that frown upside down. I got a company for you to call, a great company that's a local company, independently owned, family began, own, and run. I mean, they're not going anywhere. They're not storm chasers. Correll Roofing Co., CorrellRoofingCo.com, Correll, Curtis Correll, with 20-plus years of experience, began his own company a couple of years ago, and they are doing fantastic. You know why? Because you all trust them, and you should. They've got the experience. They've got the know-how. They've got the can-do attitude. And if you want peace of mind, I would have Correll Roofing Company come out and check out your roof today. Simply go to Correll Roofing Co., that's CorrellRoofingCo.com, to see all the great things that they can do for you. We had a lot of spring storms last year. You have about a year or so, depending on your insurance company. So if you're still worrying about last year's storms, or if you maybe had some recent storm damage, what are you waiting for? I mean, a roof that's been compromised, it doesn't get better with age, just so you know. I would get Correll Roofing Company up on your roof today. Just have them check it out, right? If everything's fine, that's what they're going to tell you. But if you need to do some replacements or an overhaul, they're going to work with you and with the insurance company to get the best deal for you possible. Have them be your advocate. Go to CorrellRoofingCo.com. That's CorrellRoofingCo.com.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson. Mario's Donut Restaurant, that's your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches, omelets, delicious gyros, and Mexican dishes, to their revamped menu with cannolis, tiramisu, baklava, and danishes. And don't forget those famous donuts. Dine in or carry out, Mario's friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit, or just visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
What's up? I've been seeing these videos, all based off this old horror movie called Faces of Death. Do you think this could be real executions?
Leave it up. Support the trend.
That
It's the first rule of content creation. Give the people what they want.
you need to listen to me about these videos. I need to do something.
5:47, and that was the trailer for Faces of Death. What did Joey think of it? Let's find out next.
Joey, baby, what movie are you playing?
Brought to you by Harry J's Steakhouse in Moscow Mills.
Today we're talking Faces of Death, and the plot: a woman employed as a website content moderator comes across a series of violent videos reproducing death scenes from the original Faces of Death film. And the title, Faces of Death, it means something to pretty much everyone. If you've heard Faces of Death, you know to stay away from it and never to watch it.
Right.
Or you've watched the movie from 1978 and you are scarred from life. Chris, do you have any history with Faces of Death from
I saw
1978?
Faces of Death in 1987. I saw it about 10 years after it came out. We rented it from a video store.
And you couldn't find it at Blockbuster. I worked at a Blockbuster. You had to go to the dirty video that had the beaded curtains to get it.
I don't know anything about that.
What are you talking about?
Well, Family Video. I know
Right,
Family
right.
Video had it, and they had a section for that. Tim, do you have any memories of Faces of Death, or is this kind of the first time you're hearing of it?
I've heard of it. I stayed away from it.
You've never
good.
seen it?
I've never seen
Oh,
it.
okay.
No, I've never seen it. I've seen some other wicked stuff, like, what was the Stephen King short? There was the shorts that Stephen King did.
Oh, I forget.
Yeah, there was, and like the Crypt Keeper stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah, I
all.
love Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt. I saw a lot of that stuff, but man, that stuff gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It was curiosity for me more than anything because there was so much hype about it.
Especially the box. I mean, the font, that red,
Yeah.
bloody font looked great. The
Yeah.
big skull, and then the back didn't even have pictures, so
Yeah.
you didn't know what it was going to be. But there was the big thing on the front that said banned in 46
Yes,
countries.
I remember that. I
And in
remember
1978, there weren't even 46 countries, I don't think.
They were just making all that up.
That was just good marketing. You know, I watched the original last night, and it made me realize I don't think I'd ever seen it. I must have seen something else, like Traces of Death, that was more disgusting. But in 1998, I was 13 years old, and I typed in facesofdeath.com, and what popped up was pretty disgusting. It was basically a bunch of short videos that were meant to scar you and make you buy the tape. But I remember one that said, this guy looks like he could be Kurt Cobain. And it was a guy laying there with probably a pumpkin head that had been crushed. But it looked so real to me. That stayed with me my entire life. So
horrible.
Well, I watched it last night and I realized, oh yeah, if this is on Tubi and Roku, all this stuff has to be fake.
Yeah.
They wouldn't show animal torture and have it still be on. You couldn't make the movie today and have these scenes in it from the original and have it be real footage. So just know that everything is fake except for kind of the news footage.
But when you look at, the way graphics and movies are now, they're so realistic and everything. This was made back in 1978. Did you look at it and be like, man, this is really cheesy?
Well, the first one with the monkey brains getting bashed out, that's so creative. And it looked legit because they peeled the skin of the monkey's head back. You think if the whole movie was like this, it'd be incredible. But then it leans into, newsreel footage of people. And I did read that one of the bodies that floats up to the water on the beach was real. But, all of that is kind of after the fact stuff. Them in a morgue looking at cadavers, that's real. But none of the real, like the alligator attack, very fake. The two dogs that were fighting each other.
What about the execution?
Execution was fake. They put toothpaste in the guy's mouth.
Is that what to make it foam?
Yeah, to make it foam. And they taped over his eyes so you couldn't see them pop out. But they said, oh, we don't want to show that because it was fake. It was basically a special effects company started, and they wanted to try out a bunch of effects that they had seen. And even in the credits, nobody stays during the credits, but I do. But in that 1978 movie, it says, scenes have been reconstructed to document further clarity. And also that Dr. Gross, he was an actor. So if you just watch the credits,
I'm so disappointed. I never watched the credits. Maybe I should have.
I asked Vic Porcelli the other day, what's your thoughts on Face of Death? He said, it's real. I was like, nope. So I blew his mind the other day, and he had no idea. The dude's, he's an older gentleman, and still to this day, he had been scarred.
I admit, Joey, I didn't know it was real till like last year that I found out it wasn't real.
Well, with this one, you've got a serial killer who's replicating the murders. He loves the movie so much that he goes and he has the narration from the original, but he does his own murders with mannequins. So in the very first video that this content moderator sees, she has to approve all the videos that go through her website that she works at. The very first one, it's these mannequins, and there's a real human guy with his head strapped down to the table, just like that monkey.
Okay.
And then these mannequins come to life, and they start bashing him in the head with these hammers, and she can't tell if it's real.
Yikes.
And her boss says, leave it up. We'll get a bunch of clicks. And then she posts on Reddit that night. She asked the internet, is this real? And everyone chimes in. This looks freaking real. And the doctor even chimes in on Reddit. It's like, blood doesn't splatter like that when it's fake. That looks real. So she goes on this search to find out who the killer is, but the killer is just as smart. I mean, he's got his own way. He discovers the Reddit thread. He puts this little trick link in there where if you click on it, it tells you who it is. So she clicks on that. He finds out who she is, and then he goes and chases her down.
Oh, okay.
And you'd think, why would someone work at a moderation company looking at these sick videos all day? It turns out that she was one of these annoying TikTok dancers, and she was dancing on a train rail. And then a train came by and killed her best friend.
Oh, okay.
And then the police released that footage to make sure no one else does this, and she becomes infamous. Everyone knows who she is. When she goes out to a restaurant, people are like, are you the train girl?
Oh, okay.
And she gives up all internet. She gets a stupid phone that doesn't have internet on it, and then she thinks, if I work at this content moderation company, I'll be able to help other teenagers avoid ruining their lives.
Not smart move.
I know. And so that's how you end up working in a place like that. You got to be screwed up already.
Right.
I couldn't watch sick videos like that all day.
No.
But it is interesting to see what she approves and what she doesn't approve. Like sex? No, we can't have that. Drugs? No. But violence?
Yes.
Wow. That's A-okay.
Sex and violence sells.
Of course. Now, when we meet the serial killer, he's not that scary to me because he's just replicating the serial killer that I've seen in the movie Manhunter and Red Dragon, this guy Francis Dollarhide. I don't know if you remember, but Tom Noonan and Ray Fiennes played the same character in different movies. This is part of the Silence of the Lambs universe.
Okay. Yes.
And he's got the same thing. This killer, he's wearing pantyhose on his head and he's jacked. And it's just like, be more original.
Yeah.
That's what I was really hoping. The first half of the movie, it really had me excited because it seems so taboo. And then the second half, the serial killer, he just wants to be famous too. You'd think if it was more of a Jigsaw angle where he's got morals, like even though you're a killer, like we got to kill the bad people. He doesn't have any morals. He just wants to be famous.
I've always wondered when you see criminals or serial killers that put pantyhose over their heads, can they breathe?
Of course they can breathe. And it squishes their face so you can't even tell.
It seems like you can't breathe too.
You don't get used once. Maybe that's when you can't breathe. If they're stinky, You take your wife's pantyhose when she hasn't washed them yet, then that's going to be an
from
issue.
your description, it sounds like this movie is a little all over the place.
Yeah, it falls off in the second half. I really wanted to like it. I give it, 2 out of 5 toasted raviolis, but it's still an interesting watch. And, things get really preposterous once the girl finds the killer because he puts her in the basement in one of his little cages. And this cage looks so flimsy. It looks like if she just kicked hard enough,
she could just leave.
And my number one pet peeve with any sort of serial killer or crime movie is when they have duct tape on their mouth and it looks like if they just blew, it would fall off. I hate that. And it's just like that where her hands are tied up, but she could just peel it off, or just use her tongue and it would get the duct tape to fall off.
I have a question about one of the actresses. I don't really know Hollywood people, but I'm very curious. One of the people starring in this, their name was Charlie XCX. Who the hell is that?
Musician, Charlie XCX. All the kids know about it. She's in there just to get clicks. She's a world famous person
that's Gabby in the movie,
has
right?
one line. It was such a waste to even promote that she was going to be in this.
Okay.
So if you're a Charlie XCX fan, which I know you are, Chris,
love it.
You got to hold back. Now, what was really cool is this is one of those AMC Scream Unseens. That's where they don't tell you what the movie's going to be. So I went, and I kind of knew what it was going to be. I was keeping my eye on Reddit and seeing what the East Coast people were saying. Like, yep, it's definitely Faces of Death. And I had 40 minutes to buy my ticket and go. So that's kind of a cool way to hack the AMC Scream Unseen. And it's only $6 to see it. So it's not that hard.
Let me ask you this. RobertEbert.com, of course, they're no comparison to you. They said that this movie was what Scream 7 should have or could have been. Would you agree with that?
I'm not a Scream fan, and I like the 7th one the most. So it's just different types of horror fans. They're all annoying. All horror fans are annoying. Don't you find?
Yeah, when they see a good one.
I'm the only good horror fan you know.
All right. Okay, that is Joy V's Movies Faces of Death. 2 out of 5 toasted ravs. So we've gone down a little bit from the last few movies, but a good movie if you want to throw up or just have a good cheap thrill.
Yep.
Faces of Death. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Larry Connors USA is up next. Guest host Jamie Allman. Have a great day and a great weekend.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine in or carry out, your meal is